The natural disasters that you have just seen happened to the United States and its citizens. The cost of the reconstruction is well into the billions for Hurricane Sandy, the F5 tornado that hit Moore, Oklahoma, and the flooding caused by large amounts of rain that hit Boulder, Colorado. Hurricane Sandy alone killed nearly 300 people in its path of destruction and caused over $65 billion in damage. These storms have been increasing in power every year. Well, there is a way to suppress the intensity of these storms. There is. We need to stop the cause of these storms. The cause is global warming.
Sustained investment and stable policies. Even in this age of budget austerity, we need to ensure that we continue to invest in clean energy. Now, while we must take action to reduce the carbon pollution that causes global warming, impacts from climate change are already here and more are on the way. Let me highlight just one project that demonstrates how we are approaching this in terms of infrastructure resilience. In the aftermath of Sandy, the vulnerability of our electricity and fuels infrastructure to severe storms and flooding was evident.
According to recent reports, scientists are 95% sure that humans are the cause of global warming. The burning of fossil fuels, along with deforestation, are the leading causes of this epidemic that not only affects Americans here at home, but everyone around the world. If something isn't done about this, these monster storms will keep forming and causing more damage and death to over 39% of the population who live in close proximity to the nation's coasts. Few people can say how destructive and dangerous hurricanes are better than first responders. Teresa Confer Standish was a military police officer stationed in Louisiana during the events of Hurricane Katrina.
I was in the U.S. Armed Forces in the Army and Military Police Corps for 5 years. At the time of Hurricane Katrina, I was stationed in Fort Polk, Louisiana, which is in the central portion of Louisiana, about 3 hours north of New Orleans. Before the storm, we went door to door, finding out what sort of services people were going to need when the storm occurred, and letting them know what would be available on the military installation and what they would need to seek off the installation in the civilian world. During the storm, we did a lot of traffic control. The power was out for several weeks, so we often had to provide people different services that they weren't able to get on their own, such as meals ready to eat since you couldn't cook anything. After the storm, we did a lot of cleanup. It took several months before the installation and the outlying civilian areas were back to the way they were before the storm, for which our unit received the Humanitarian Service Ribbon. The most surprising thing during the storm was certainly the sheer power of the wind. It was so horrible that I remember one day I was driving my patrol car down the road and I literally had to fight against the air currents to keep the vehicle on the road because they were trying to push me into a guardrail. Congress needs to do a better job of making civilians aware of how important it is to heed warnings and to evacuate when they should, and to let people know sooner rather than later that storms are coming.
But what can we, as proud American citizens, do to help prevent dangerous future from happening? To understand what to change to prevent these storms, we must understand what is causing them. The basic reason why global warming is happening is due to sun rays being trapped in our planet's atmosphere. Fossil fuels release CO2 and other greenhouse gases, which act as a barrier for the sun rays reflecting off the planet. These sun rays then heat up the planet, causing global warming. But how does global warming relate to storms? Most hurricanes originate as thunderstorms on the west coast of Africa. While traveling west across the Atlantic Ocean, it begins to pick up power, slowly becoming a hurricane. The cool atmosphere, combined with the warm Atlantic water and the Coriolis effect, turn once fairly harmless thunderstorms into dangerous hurricanes. With warmer water, you have more fuel for hurricanes to use to become bigger. It's like adding fuel to a fire. The more fuel, the more dangerous it is. Hurricane Sandy, which hit the eastern seaboard in 2012, was a Category 3, while Hurricane Katrina, which hit the Gulf of Mexico and devastated New Orleans in 2005, was a Category 5. Global warming is a leading factor in stronger hurricanes, and we can now find a way to suppress these larger storms. The biggest way we can fight global warming is to get the United States to wean off of fossil fuels and begin constructing an eco-friendly infrastructure. Some of the alternative energy sources that we can utilize include wind power, a continually expanding field in the Midwest and Southwest. Solar power, which the state of California has been a pioneer of since the early 1980s. Geothermal, a field that the U.S. leads in capacity and generation of. And hydroelectric, the highest generator of clean, renewable energy in the United States. Vehicles will also have to change as well. Stricter emission standards and engines that get more miles per gallon will also need to come into effect. With American companies like Ford and GM producing hybrid cars, we're already on the right path. We must now leap forward and help propel our auto industry into putting a focus on going green. It will not be an easy process. It will take time and it will take hard work. Critics say that it will be economically unfeasible, with the cost being too great. Jobs will need to be created to build a greener infrastructure, helping put more people to work. Changes to almost every aspect of the way we live must happen, but all these changes are for the greater good. Where the United States goes, the world follows. It is a problem that the world has created, and the world must solve it. Without the United States, the world will not be able to combat global warming. To leave the video off, here's our question for Congress. What is better, fixing the problem or letting it sit?